HOA Karen called the cops as I moved boxes into my daughter's lake cabin. Now her HOA's permanently banned. Have you ever been accused of unauthorized occupancy by a woman who didn't even own the road she stood on? Because I have. And the funny thing, ISI was only there to help my 8-year-old daughter settle into the lake cabin her mother left her in the will. That's it. No noise. No party. Just me, a truck full of boxes, and a Saturday morning filled with bittersweet memories. But of course, that wasn't good enough for Karen. It started when I backed into the gravel turnoff just before sunrise. I didn't want to wake the neighbors. I even shut the tailgate slowly to avoid any loud clunk. I had barely taken the second box of books out when I heard the voice. "Excuse me, you can't be here. This is HOA property." I turned in. There she was. Short, heavy set, wrapped in a beige windbreaker zipped up way too tight, face scrunched like she'd just bitten a lemon. Her arms crossed like a school principal who's had a bad decade. "I'm sorry," I asked, still holding a box labeled Charlotte Stories and Stuff. She stormed toward me, heels clicking over the gravel like she owned it. "This entire trail belongs to the Lakeside HOA. Moving in without prior authorization is a violation of Covenant Code 7B.1. I blinked. Then I laughed. "Karen, right? I beg your pardon?" I placed the box gently on the porch rail. "My name is Evan. This cabin was passed down to my daughter after her mommy ex-wife passed away. There's no HOA jurisdiction here. We checked before the will even cleared probate." She scoffed. "You think just because someone dies, their property is exempt from rules? That's not how this works." That's when she pulled out her phone and started filming. She narrated like she was some budget reality show host. "Illegal occupation in progress. Male subject unloading boxes into unapproved cabin space. No visible permit displayed. You're filming a grieving father helping his daughter move into her inherited home," I said, deadpan. "You should be ashamed." But she wasn't. She dialed 911. "I have a suspicious man possibly breaking and entering," she said with theatrical panic. "There's a minor involved. I don't feel safe." I wanted to scream, but I didn't. I just sat down on the porch steps and waited for the cops. I figured they'd show up, verify my documents, and shut her down. What I didn't know was that Karen had done this before. 10 times. To 5 different families. What I really didn't know was that she'd been collecting fake move-in fines for years through a fake Lakeside HOA newsletter she personally printed at Staples. She even had a fake PayPal account named Lake Regulations at Comcast that she used to pressure elderly neighbors into paying her for code inspections. And today, she picked the wrong guy. The sheriff's cruiser pulled up 15 minutes later. Deputy Grahamada, calm, no nonsense, stepped out, glanced at me, then at Karen still wagging her phone like it was a weapon. "You the one who called?" he asked her. She puffed up. "Yes. This man is illegally entering a cabin that should be locked down per Lakeside HOA's post-inheritance code. Is there an HOA on record for this section of the lake?" Graham asked. Karen's eyes narrowed. "We operate under a legacy charter." That's when I stood up and handed over the paperwork. Title deed, will certification, county parcel map, all notarized, all clean. Graham took one look and nodded. "You're good, Mr. Weston." Karen exploded. "You can't just let him. This is our community. This is an act of trespassing." "No, ma'am," he replied. "You're the one trespassing now." And then came the first twist. Graham turned to me quietly and said, "You should know this isn't the first complaint we've had from her, but it's the first time we've had video footage from the victim's side." I blinked. "Wait, other people reported her?" "Oh yeah," he said, "but most just packed up and left to avoid the trouble. You actually stayed calm and documented everything. This might be the nail in the coffin." Karen's mouth was still running behind him. "My late husband helped write the HOA charter. You can't erase that with a sheriff's badge." But Graham wasn't listening anymore. He asked if I'd be willing to provide the footage for the county investigation. You bet I did. And then came twist number 2. While Karen was still busy ranting, a neighbor named Miss Helen walked over from 3 houses down. She was pushing a walker, but moving fast. She told me my bird feeder was against policy. Helen said, voice trembling with age and rage. Tried to find me $50 last fall, and she took my mailbox last month because it was non-regulation. Deputy Graham's eyes darkened. Helen, he asked softly, do you have anything she gave you in writing? She nodded and handed him a wrinkled manila envelope. Inside were 5 printed notices with Karen's name typed in bold at the bottom and a request for payments made out to Karen D. HOA liaison. That was all Graham needed. He called it in. Karen turned white, then red, then purple. No, you don't understand. I was preserving this community. I was protecting it. Graham looked her square in the eye and said, no, ma'am. You were running a fraudulent organization, and you're about to answer for every neighbor you lied to. By the time backup arrived, Karen had tried to storm back to her golf cart, which, by the way, was illegally parked half on my gravel and half in the ditch. But she didn't make it far. Deputy Graham's partner, Officer Torres, stepped out of his SUV, took one look at the stack of forged HO letters Helen had handed over, and radioed in for a fraud investigator. Karen Duckworth, he said into his mic, multiple complaints, multiple forged notices, suspected impersonation of authority. This could be HOA fraud on a county scale. Karen's face collapsed in on itself. Gone was the self-righteous fury. Gone was the clipboard queen persona. In its place stood a terrified, overweight woman realizing perhaps for the first time that she had no idea who she'd been messing with. She tried to play the health card, clutched her chest, faked a dizzy spell. Do you need medical attention, ma'am? Torres asked. Do you just think I should sit down? My blood pressure, this is all a misunderstanding. No, ma'am, he said firmly, it's not. And then, finally, they asked me the question. Mr. Weston, would you be willing to give a statement to the county attorney? I didn't even blink. I'll give you a full timeline, photos, security cam footage, and every single thing she's mailed to this cabin over the last 3 years. I saved it all. That's when Graham turned to Helen and asked, would you be willing to sign an affidavit? Her voice was shaky, but strong. Absolutely. That woman made my husband cry. He's 87 and a veteran. She fined him $150 for hanging a flag. Graham's jaw clenched. Torres just muttered, Jesus. Within 2 hours, the whole block was buzzing. 5 neighbors came out with their own stories. A dad who got fined for leaving a canoe on the dock. A single mom who was told her child's sidewalk chalk was a defacement citation. Even a retired police officer who had paid Karen $300 in noise violation fees because she claimed the HOA could report him to the sheriff. The fraud investigator arrived that afternoon. Karen tried to run. Not far. She made it about 15 feet in her floppy sandals before her foot caught a tree root, and she went face first into a patch of moss. I'm not proud of it, but I didn't rush to help. I just watched. And I wasn't alone. By sunset, the scene had turned into something surreal. Neighbors gathered. Old ladies brought lemonade. One guy brought a lawn chair and popcorn. Helen's husband brought his old camcorder out and set on a tripod. Someone even played country music on a Bluetooth speaker. Take this job and shove it. Karen was taken in for questioning around 7:30 p.m. But the real reckoning came the next morning. The County Board of Assessors issued a formal public statement. The so-called Lakeside HOA has been determined to be an unauthorized, unregistered, and illegally operating entity. No dues, fines, or citations issued under its name are valid. All residents are absolved of past fees, and a responsible individual is under investigation for multiple counts of fraud, impersonation, and coercion. Boom. Word traveled fast. By noon, every mailbox along the lake had a fresh county notice posted on it. No HOA, no fake fines. No clipboard threats. Just peace. And then came the poetic twist. The sheriff's department seized Karen's garage as evidence storage. Why? Because she'd been stockpiling confiscated items. Over 200 pieces of non-regulation decor, including flags, lawn gnomes, porch swings, and even 2 full birdhouses taken from elderly residents. She'd been hoarding them, selling some online. On Etsy, they found listings. Vintage garden gnome, HOA compliant, priced at $89. Flagpole bracket community regulation edition, $42. That was the final nail. Federal charges followed. Wire fraud, mail fraud, tax evasion, elder abuse. At her trial, yes. There was a trial. She tried to paint herself as a community preservationist. Her lawyer claimed she was filling a regulatory void. The judge didn't even let him finish before slamming the gavel. Karen was sentenced to 18 months in county jail, plus 5 years probation and a permanent ban from holding any role in community organizations, HOAs, or housing committees statewide. Hand restitution. Over $78,000 to be repaid to affected families. At sentencing, Helen stood up and made a statement. "I hope she has time to think," she said, "because all we ever wanted was to live in peace." And she tried to scare us out of our own homes. The courtroom clapped, even the bailiff. As for me, Charlotte and I finished moving in. Her room overlooks the lake. She's got glow-in-the-dark stars on her ceiling and a turtle night light on her shelf. We planted a tree together last spring, right where Karen had stood when she called 911. I named it Justice Elm. The neighborhood is quiet now, friendly, unified. We built a real community without rules written in fear, without fines and threats and fake newsletters. Just neighbors, real neighbors. Every so often, a new visitor asks about the infamous gate at the entrance to our gravel road, the one with the wood sign carved by hand. No HOAs, no Karens, no nonsense. And I smile, because sometimes the best revenge isn't a fight. It's freedom. So I'll ask you this just like I asked that deputy on day one. Was I wrong to move a few boxes into my daughter's home? Or was that the moment a whole neighborhood finally stood up to tyranny? The end.